Yeah. Got Chris in the booth, got Omar too. All the lucky listeners know we do it for you. Not your common conversations, back with the new. And we speaking the truth like they need us to do. Ain't not your common conversation, not your common conversation, not your common conversation. Word is bond and we on and we on.
Here we go.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Omar Henderson, and I'm here with
Chris Downing.
Chris Downing,
Right
and we're
here
here
in
to
the
bring
flesh.
you yet another episode of
Not Your Common Conversation.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here we deliver a conversation to you, our lucky listeners, every 2 weeks, and hopefully you find it interesting and engaging, and you carry something forward from it. So today we're just gonna, Chris. We had gotten some suggestions about the content.
I'm glad you mentioned. Yeah, I feel like listen, lucky listeners. We're still trying to find our ground in this, and really get clear on being able to be relatable to you, hearing what you have to say. We'd love to hear more about what you have to say. You can definitely follow us, like us, and give your comments on NYCC pod.
Yeah.
NYCC pod, POD, and that's both on Instagram and YouTube.
Exactly.
And so that matters to us. We just don't want to be talking to ourselves. We want to be talking to you, with you, hear what
or even about you.
Or
if you want us to.
Maybe if you want us to, yeah. I mean, please comment, give us your input. We'll gladly mention or talk about some of the things that interest you. Like I said, we're still trying to find our footing in all this. We're trying to, we came about this
exactly
wanting to create a different way of communicating. That's why we name it Not Your Common Conversation. Not necessarily that we wouldn't talk about some of the things that other people are talking about, but in the way that we talk about it, what we bring to it, and also talk about things that maybe people aren't talking about. One of the things I want to talk about is health around men's health,
okay.
And specifically Black men,
okay,
and their health. We tend to sometimes. I mean, I'll go into a little bit of it right now.
Yeah, be my guest.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was talking about their. I tell you, wow. First of all, let me just give a shout out to Tony Reguster, man. We lost him this week. This brother, talk about broadcast. He was a might have been general manager of WPFW. Amazing friend, amazing brother. He passed away at 76. So, as a matter of fact, I'd like to dedicate this show to Tony Reguster. He was very pivotal in my life. He was a man who had big ideas, had a lot of knowledge and information about the world, the African diaspora. He thought and dreamt big about life and what he wanted to do. And really, most of all, when I think of Tony Reguster, I think of love. I think about he was someone who really believed and was a big, he championed love, people getting together, people uniting and having a commonality of humanity and for mankind. He was just amazing. I had the opportunity of mentoring his son when I think he was in high school. Miles, shout out to Miles Reguster. I knew his ex-wife, Marquette. His daughter's name is not coming to me. Amazing, beautiful sister in her own right, smart, intelligent, and beautiful, just in physicality and just dynamic. And Tony was just Tony the Tiger. He would say, I could still hear him say Tony the Tiger. And so I speaking of men's health, Black man, he happened to be a Black man. We oftentimes, and I had this conversation with someone the other day, we oftentimes shy away from what's going on with us, physically, mentally, not just physical health, but mental health. We tend to sort of shy away from what's going on with us.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm not sure what that's about.
I have a theory.
Okay, please share.
My theory is that we collapse our health with who we are.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Now,
Speak
on the
on
one
that.
hand, yeah.
Yeah.
So if a person, and this probably happens, it happens specifically with black men. I would say it happens with men in general.
Okay.
When in fact their health is
Yep.
compromised,
Yep.
that means they are, as a person, are compromised, and thus they're not seen as strong.
Oh,
And
God.
so therefore,
I
they'd
wanna
rather
deal with
just
that.
hide it and occur as strong,
Mhm.
look good for society,
Right.
which is, a problem in the world today, because then you have these world leaders who are men who have to look strong and then, screw everybody else. But that's another subject for another day.
I actually want to come back to that. Keep going, because that's something big. I just well, keep going. I'll come back.
Yeah, and so there's just what gets in the way of men, and this is why I admire you, as a matter of fact.
to okay.
Yeah,
All
because you're well put together. You're successful in business. You have a lot of friends. You're from my point of view, you're the kind of person that savors relationship, and so and so that is a complete person, from the outside looking in. Now, I'm sure you've got struggles. I've got struggles.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got
100%.
struggles. There's nobody on this planet. No, anybody on this planet who doesn't have struggles is dead. I hate to say it like that.
Yeah,
but
they
are. They're in the grave. You know what I'm saying? And
I get your point. You're
even
right.
monks struggle with like being in meditation. It's like a 5 second or to a half a second moment. But none.
That's all we really have. If you really want to.
Right, is now.
Is moments.
Yeah, it's moments,
Yeah.
right? And the only moment that we really have is right now.
Sequence of moments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But my point being is, but inside of all of that, you take care of your health. So, somebody looks at you from a distance, or anybody like you, and says, wow, that guy or that girl looks good, right? But what they don't see, it's like watching a movie. You go through the montage, but you don't see all the stuff that went behind
the journey.
The journey, yeah. You get a snippet of it every now and then, but everything, so people who like yourself and others.
Let me say this.
And one more thing I want to say about that too. I believe that there is also this idea of looking to the future. There's this song by The Roots called "We All Want Tomorrow Right Now." And so, yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so then there's a person that's dealing with a health challenge. There's just a disconnect between the future. That's fine, or maybe I really can't word this well enough, but I'm just going to get to the point. Your health right now is dependent on how well you take care of yourself right now.
Right.
Right now. And right now.
Right. And then
right now.
Right.
Exactly. Because that's all you got is each moment to moment. So if you're on your deathbed, but you're alive, you still have right now. How are you going to spend that time? How are you going to spend that time? You're going to be bemoaning about the future, or you're going to spend it right now? And healthcare can be seen as a right now phenomenon.
Who you choose to be in the matter.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Now. You know what came up when you made reference of me being, I guess, I don't know if you say good health or whatever, because that's all relative to right now. What came up is I said, I don't know that I'm healthy. What I am trying to be, an attempt to be, is conscious about my health, right? So, that's a daily thing. That's a work in progress. That's some days. I'll be honest with you. I worked. I think it was Thursday. Was it Thursday?
Yeah, it was Thursday.
I was exhausted, right? Because it was an early
Yeah, you'd been up since 4.
get up exactly, and the job itself wasn't like grueling, but it was it was a day of production. We shot this wonderful event around Black women and leadership, Black women and sharing their experiences, which I want to come back to because I find there's something very amazing and unique about Black women. Something else. But what I was thinking, quite frankly, I came back, I got home around 2:00. My mother, shout out to my mom, Mama Sherry, she came to the house on Wednesday. She dropped by to do some work around the house, help me clean the house. She's on my payroll right now. It's either her or the cleaning lady, but my mother had a cleaning business, and so that's her thing. Okay. But but why I mentioned her is she brought some sweet potato pie. She knows she can get to my heart with her sweet potato pies every time. It's like we're in good standing right now, but there are times we definitely haven't been in good standing, and that's sort of her way of saying that's her way of giving love, right? Black people and food. Speaking of health, but I didn't need those sweet potato pies. I gave one to my brothers. One, by the way, one was for my brother Vince. And I made sure I got it to him because it wouldn't had it been here another day, it'd have been gone. But oh my God, I bring this all up to say that I ate. I went and got some African food, and I ate. And then I found out, my man Tony Regusta died on Facebook, and it totally put me in a mood, man. I really couldn't. I wasn't myself. I did get up Friday and got to the gym. Shout out to my boy Daryl Brooks in the house. We work out. He's taking a serious stand for being in shape. A serious stand. He looks fantastic. And I'll say he looks fantastic with age, but I think he looks fantastic anyway.
Time out. Is that Daryl Brooks? Is he a promoter?
Different Daryl Brooks. Okay. They know each other, and that's another story.
Okay.
Different. Shout out to the promoter, Daryl Brooks. I got pictures with him. Good cat. Put a lot of good music and entertainment into the world, the DMV, for many, many years. But no, different Daryl Brooks. But anywho, I wasn't feeling that great mentally or physically, and I realized, reminded myself, how I get emotional. Food is an emotional component. When I get emotional or I'm tired, food is the great relief. It makes me, it's like Vicks on my right. It makes me nothing else. Food. I know a lot of people are emotional like that. I mean, it's something emotional eaters, which is not good for us. Period. Not always. It's not good for us because we're making bad decisions based on our emotions and not based on our health or well-being.
Right.
And so, too much is too much, and we tend to not the lines between what we need for nourishment and what we need to satisfy our emotional deficiencies. Has us eating half of a sweet potato pie in my case, and eating way too much African food, too much rice, that jollof rice. Shout out to Joe Dim, I believe. They make good one of my choice for African food. But anyway, so yeah, but what I got present to, and so I needed rest, and so I rested yesterday. Got up. I was at the gym with you today, and I feel better. And Daryl was like, "Yo, you need to go home and just rest."
Yeah.
Because whether it was physical or emotional, I was depleted and I needed that. And so that's what I mean by being being conscious about your health.
Exactly.
Like you've got to assess what you're eating. How much is too much? Did I have too much carbs, too much bread this week? Right. Did I have enough vegetables? Am I putting enough live vegetables? People think of like, oh, I went and got some cooked, some potato chips or some French fries or some tomatoes, or they got some greens. But sometimes the body needs like raw vegetables to irrigate the body. You have to start thinking your body like a well-run machine. And so, meats, we talked about that the other day, how meat is just it's a dense product.
Yeah.
You eating meat 3-4 times a week, and you got, first of all, the older we get, your body doesn't process as much, and you're putting strain on organs, on body parts, inflaming body parts that are working overtime because of your emotional decisions, because of what satisfying your taste buds. So that's what I mean by being very cautious about what you put in your body.
Yeah, I think what there is to notice is, well, there's a sign in the fact that when they show fast food commercials, everybody in there is like 30 and younger.
That's funny. That's interesting.
Yeah,
because that's when you can take
That's
that.
when you can take that stuff.
When you can take processed plastic food going and moving through
right?
your vessels.
You work it out playing volleyball or softball or football or playing
and it
soccer.
passes through. Your digestive system is a lot newer.
Exactly.
It's like getting a new car. It's fast. But once you start getting some miles on it, that car doesn't run or operate like it did.
It sure doesn't.
And so we have to understand and afford the same lenience on our bodies. Like, why are you running your body and through that vigorous, you're not 20 or 30 anymore.
Yeah.
In some cases you're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80.
Right.
And things decline.
Well, they alter for sure. By the time you're 35, you're not moving like you were when you were 12. So that's a big sign right there.
Right.
Your exterior body and the things that you notice, like if you have a pain in your joint, or if your motion is limited, or if you're running slower, or if you're walking a little slower. I mean, that's throughout your body. So it happens internally just as well. Your intestines and all that are not going to absorb as readily and not going to process as efficiently. And so, there is altering that way of eating to match what your body can take and what your body can do.
I like the way you put that.
Senior citizens, people who reach senior citizen status, do exercises that keep them active, but they're not like the exercises that a 15 or a 20-year-old would do.
Yeah.
They're adjusted to what their body is capable of withstanding. And so that happens internally as well. And, not only physically, but then, there's the mental capacity as well. So all of that changes over time. And so you want to, I try to choose exercises mentally, physically, whatever, to match what I'm doing. But like I said, in my mind, you're like the quintessential example of that, because what I wanted to comment
on this pedestal that I don't think I can.
No, because I look at you, man, like you got a great smile, your teeth look good, but then you're always telling me how you're going to the dentist, right?
I just got a bunch of fillings because I had to get 16 fillings. Lucky listeners, I don't mind sharing it with you. Being transparent, because I got radiation in my radiation pumped into I had throat cancer. And so the radiation wore my calcium in my teeth. I didn't realize it till about, the fourth or fifth filling. I was like, wait a minute, I've never had. It's like, yeah, you had radiation for 7 weeks pointed to your jaw.
Oh, wow.
and yeah, seven weeks every day of radiation is going to create that kind of thing.
Wow.
So not to mention, I don't, my teeth seem to be in pretty good condition, but who knows where it was prior. I mean, and they said that prior to me getting the radiation, they said, listen, you got to go to the dentist if you got any issues with your teeth. I had a tooth I needed to get pulled out. I pulled that out. And so, those are really, again, like I said, none of us get out alive, but really to be conscious about what is happening with your body. It's hard to tell. I'm sure the technology is getting there where we can see exactly what's going on in our body at most times. So now we don't have that readily available to know what's going on, much less what's happening in our minds. The stress, things that happen outside of our bodies can affect what's going on inside of our bodies.
God.
Not just food, but the pressure. So be the relationship you talked about. Relationships, having good. I try to really have good relationships with people and count nobody out, because first of all, I was having this conversation with someone saying, it's like, you're very forgiving. I said, because God forgives us every single day we get up. Who are you not to forgive somebody? Can you imagine the same, not forgiving somebody that you might not be forgiving someone? Imagine you're not forgiving. turn that around and think if God treated you the same way. If God turned his back the way you turn your back on me. So we have to even, and I know people, we get mad at people. And sometimes I've had times where I didn't want to talk to my mom. I didn't talk to my mom for several months. But I know in the back of my mind, I'm better when I'm talking to my mom and having a good relationship, or anybody, my brother. I mentioned that on a podcast that I have a brother that's not talking to me. I know I miss him. I'm not afraid to say I miss him. I am not even sure why he's angry. He mentioned I disrespected him. His wife wasn't. I didn't even have a conversation with him. I'm like, but anyway, that's beside the point. I don't want to get personal. I mean, he has his reason. I don't want to make him wrong. He has his reasons.
Right.
But my bigger point is, it's about us. I wait. The door is always open for us to talk. It's always open. I never shut the door. Why? Because there is something to learn from that. Apparently, since I mentioned him, he's experiencing something. Obviously, I'm not. But maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I missed something. But not having the conversation and not communicating doesn't yield us anything. There's no fruits that grow from that. There's nothing that grows from that. And so there was like one person that said, a brother on Instagram, a Jamaican brother, he said, you being mad at someone is the punishment you give yourself for someone else's behavior.
Oh my
like
God.
It just doesn't fly. Like
my God.
you can't carry that around but so long because, and you can't say that, when someone says, I don't care about that person, well, that's a very dehumanized way of being. You're saying you're not human when you say that, basically. You're saying, what are you, a machine or something?
Either that or they're protecting themselves from being drawn into the fact that they actually do care but they don't want to show it. Right. Or they don't want to give in to those feelings because then they would feel like they would be either acquiescing or somehow feel weak. It goes back to the being strong and being the facade. The facade. But listen, getting back to the health thing.
But no, that's part of the health thing because those are the kind of things that can make us sick,
Stress.
and we don't connect that's something that can make you sick.
When you said that, I realized some of these people who go around maybe bullying others or at a young age or being angry at other people at a young age, and they carry that for the rest of their lives, and then later on, they have hypertension. Or they have, a heart attack or blood pressure.
And it's I believe here's something I want to connect. It's no secret that black people have are known to have the highest hypertension, diabetes, all these things that a lot of things are stress related, not just food, but I bet you if somebody did the math, you can draw a line between slavery and what was inflicted us historically over 400 years ago to that's been put in our DNA. So that stress carries. We sometimes will have a position of, I see it with young folks, being angry. What are you angry for? It's like, I'm mad. You get the young cat on the street, pissed off. Yeah. They're walking around with being pissed at something. They don't even know.
Right.
I'm mad.
Which is setting off, what is it, cortisol levels?
Yeah, what are you telling your body?
And that's constantly going on.
Yeah.
You're setting that off constantly. And so it's like taking a steroid.
Right.
Which, you remember Lyle Alzado?
I know that name. Football player?
Yeah, he was a football player for the Oakland Raiders. And he was on steroids. Wow. It was a different kind of steroid, but still, it was steroids, which made him in the waning years of his career, and they were going to a Super Bowl. He was on steroids, and that made him a raging, football player. I mean, he was just, angry, not angry, but very forceful, and he ended up dying.
Wow.
So my
great for football, not so much for his health.
Exactly. So that the release of that chemical constantly in your body, the cortisol that comes from your being angry all the time, is definitely going to have a negative effect. There's something else I want to jump to, but before I do that, I want to make sure you're complete on saying what you had to say. Because this is something else health related.
No, I don't know. Well, I don't know that I'm complete. I mean, I've got a lot to say, but please.
Okay, all right. So So, back in the day, like, the 80s and 90s, Dr. Gary Knoll used to come
Oh,
on.
I remember Gary. I was a big listener to Gary. I went to his. He had a food shop in New York.
Oh, okay.
It was like when you went there, it was like Liberace. No, really, it had leopard print and had. Oh yeah, he was very
Really?
flamboyant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was rich. He was a millionaire.
I had no idea he was a millionaire.
Oh yeah, he had plenty of money.
Okay.
He might have. I'm not sure if he was. He might have been gay too. I mean, which is fine. I mean,
right.
But I'm just saying, if you maybe that's not so important. Sorry.
So, no, but because sometimes when you're concerned about health, and then you hear all the Gary Knowles, because there was Gary Knoll.
A lot of information. This dude put out
a lot of
information.
A lot of information.
Shout out to Gary Knowles. He was amazing.
But see, that can become overwhelming.
Sure, and no, it was.
Oh my God! You're like, well, what do I eat? What do I not eat? And you're just like, or what plan do I stick with? Because there's a whole bunch of plans out here. Like there's Gary Knoll, and then there are people just like him all over the planet. You know what I'm saying? They're saying, don't eat the French fries. Don't eat the sandpaper. Don't whatever. Don't eat.
Some of it was kind of logical though. It's French fries. It's potatoes soaked in oil.
Yeah, and
we love it.
I understand that. I understand. But my point is, when it comes to choosing what to eat, right? Like what to eat, that can become overwhelming. And
I love French fries, by the way.
But I do too. I do too. and so inside of all of that, there's this whisper of an idea that says, everything in moderation. Everything, don't overeat to one side or the other. Everything in moderation.
Everything.
And I would go back to what you said earlier, which is, being aware of what your body can and cannot take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's important. I mean, listen, we know it makes sense when people say, have you drink enough water? It makes sense.
Right.
The world is primarily water. The earth is made primarily of water.
75%.
And so are we.
Right.
So you want to, not having enough water in the body is like a car not having enough oil or gas. I mean, all these things are kind of logical when you break it down.
Right.
But we try to make, I don't know if it's society or what have you, it's kind of put it in this weird kind of place. I mean, vegetables have what? Vitamins, they have nutrients, they have all these different things, some of which I don't know and can't remember. But we know vegetables have fiber in it. They clean out the body. So if you've gone a certain amount of time, like a day or two without having vegetables, your body, especially as you get older, you need a little bit, you need more when you get older. It said that you need a little more protein because you don't produce as much protein when you were young. But also you got to balance, not have too much protein. You need the body starts to slow down like anything that we know of. Again, if I had this microphone 59 years, the microphone would not probably look like this. Mm-hmm. So there's a deterioration with everything, anything. Mm-hmm. And so you got to think of your body so I need to put certain supplements, or I might have to find out. There are doctors and there are physicians and there are people in the health world who study different types of body types. And so you need to know how your body also listen to your body.
Right.
The Rasta man's out in the woods, my folks happen to be in Jamaica, and they live long because, one, the food's more pure. I actually think that the food that we have here in the U.S. isn't the food, and it's not the same as other places.
No, there was a report the other day that said that there are things that we eat in the U.S. that they don't allow in other parts.
Why is that? Why is what's called quote unquote the superpower allowing this to happen? Why isn't, or is capitalism the only thing that matters?
Yeah.
And so I can remember we were in Colombia in November. A friend of mine and my brother, we were in Colombia, and we kept saying, damn, man, the food that we eat here isn't making us full and sluggish. It was so noticeable. Like it was huge. Same way in Jamaica. It's hugely noticeable. You don't see people walking around slumpy. So, you know what I mean? People can eat and do stuff. Here, you know, we get that thing, we eat and, you know, what do they say? The N-word, the itis comes in.
Yeah.
And so what are you putting, why are you having, one sense you want, you know, you want more productivity, but you're giving us food that doesn't give us more productivity. I mean, it's just it's a weird, this thing is so, like, you know, I was talking to somebody, we were talking about investing. I don't want to get away from the subject. We're talking about investing. We're talking about the fact that, you know, America has farmed out everything. So it produces very little, but it wasn't like that many years ago. What happened? You know, it's like it cut its nose off to spite its face. But anyway, going back to health. And so the reason why I brought this up real quickly, I know I'm talking a lot.
That's all right.
Is that we were talking about how Black men, I'm not sure if it's the same way with other ethnicities, you know, our white counterparts or Latinos or Asians or, you know, whoever else I'm missing, Native Americans, Indians. I don't know. But I know that East Pacific, I know that we tend, in the community that I most identify with, in the Black community, we tend to shy away from talking about what's really going on until the 11th hour, till we're almost dead. Then we're like, oh God, help me, somebody. Well, if you had just been vocal about what was going on and being proactive,
Right.
Same thing.
Right.
About what's going on with your body, then you might have stood a chance to get to it before it got worse.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just all in communication. It's just all communicate. All you gotta do is open your mouth and talk about it. Like you talk about the football game, you talk about money, or, you know, just open your mouth and say what's going on or how you're feeling, so that people can give you, the people, your community around you can give you constructive, you know, information, and sometimes constructive criticism about maybe how habits, because a lot of this is just based on habits.
Well, it is. So here's another wrench in the works of that, and I suffer from this as well. That is that our egos are such that we don't allow others to contribute.
Wow.
And so when we don't allow others to contribute, we have this sense that, well, I can do it myself.
Until you can't.
Until you can't, right? And then you go crying, right? So, and you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. It's just not with Black men. I mean, I see patients all the time who have had, you know, some kind of pain. And I'll go, when I look at their chart, it says, been in pain for like 10 months, 3 months, 6 weeks, right? Because they want to work it out. They want to rub some dirt on it.
Rub some dirt on it. Go back out and play.
Exactly. Yeah. They want to rub dirt on it. There are some who will come immediately. You know, it's like a couple of days. Well, let me make an appointment. You know, and you know, ironically, they get made fun of because you're like, oh, you're just a crybaby. I'm saying in the world. I got you. You're just a crybaby. Yeah. You come in at the drop of a hat. And so, you know, so you got these two extremes. But yeah, it's like, so because I'm bringing this up, you said something earlier about our ways of being, and you know, your health starts with how you're going to be about it. Yeah. And the more arrogant and or standoffish and or leave me alone-ish that you are, the more alone and poor health that you end up being. And you know, that's like, and it just, I would dare say that concept of I can do it on my own, don't allow others to contribute to me, really cut in on not just health, but they also affect the economy, and it kind of breeds this sense of greed, I would dare say. Yeah, because if I have to do for myself, then I'm figuring you're doing for yourself. So that means you and I are competing, and I'm going to have to go out and get all that I can and keep you from getting. So there's all this like lack of sharing. If I can't share my goods, I'm not going to share myself. If I can, and I'm not going to share myself, no one can contribute to me because you should just leave me alone because I can take care of my.
So this is just trickle down.
Oh my God! It's like this boulder that's rolling, this snowball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger with all these reasons as to why you just get sick and die on your own. I don't mean to laugh at that.
But no, that's true. That's what oftentimes happens. I mean, it's interesting. I was thinking about what you were saying in terms of I can do it on my own. The ego of we live in a society very much about driven from winning, and with that winning, like sports or like gladiators. There was a time where, that worked on a level. Like you couldn't show your vulnerability, like in war, or you have to defend for yourself, or you're in a game or boxing. You had, showing vulnerability doesn't work because that's an advantage to your opponent. But we're supposed to be civilized these days, 2024 with AI, we're supposed to be civilized. And so we've had the luxury of I like to think we've had the luxury of kind of relaxing and showing our vulnerability. Now, I know vulnerability sounds weak on its face, but here's something I want to offer and just put in mind. I just did this thing. We had the video record this piece I'm putting together, but it was around Black women in leadership. And they were vulnerable and generous enough to share their stories about what it took to get to the level they were attorneys, they were in the finance, and these were some women who were at the top of their game. And they were generous enough and vulnerable enough to talk about some of the experiences that they have in that war of the workspace, of succeeding. There was a keynote speaker, was a sister from Wall Street. They had attorneys, people in finance who are shaping our world, helping to shape our world for the better, right? But they were gracious enough to share their experiences of what they deal with men. I hate to say it, and a lot of their trials and tribulations came, their war was white men, right? White men who, surprise, surprise, who created all this and this thing. For good or worse, I really don't want to.
They created it all, but then wanted to protect it all.
Yeah, and all that they created wasn't bad. Okay,
Right.
A lot of us use a lot of, and but there's a flaw called the caste system in this which racism
Lives inside
great tool, yeah. That has, I think, dehumanized us. But what I want to get back to is that they were generous enough to do this. Now, I was watching the Martha Stewart documentary, and she was sharing, her whole story. And then when the whole stock market scandal,
right?
And she would not. All she had to do is, according to them, Comey, the same Comey, I forget, it's Jim Comey, same Comey that brought down Trump and brought down. Or didn't bring them down. The attorneys, the White House attorney, I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
but I don't want to make it about him. But anyway, he's the same woman at that time. This was in the early '90s that brought her down. That she lied. She didn't get prosecuted and go to trial because she lied. But she stood her ground. And I understood it because it seemed like, and I don't know, it seemed like she emulated early on and wanted what the white man had, right? Her white counterpart, male counterpart, and that was power. And she became a millionaire. Her company trade, she rolled that baby up from the kitchen all the way to the very top, the top. Okay?
All right.
So kudos to her. But she played that game. Because that's the game that she was taught, directly or indirectly, by white men. You don't ever, you stand right there. But here's what the missing is, and what stood out for me with the Black women and women in general, but black women especially, I hate to say it, that the reason why we love them, and the reason why we all come from a woman is because that's the very center of the heart, forget everything else, our very existence before war, all that, having to, protect anything, our very existence of who we are stands on being vulnerable and being in the nurturing and truth. Truth is vulnerable. Truth is vulnerable. Truth means that you have to accept something just as it is. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Now, that's not always the case in war. War, you could be dead wrong, but you just keep fighting because you standing on the rock.
Yeah.
And so the fact that these sisters, and I just thought something before I close this, I just thought there was something very powerful that they're able to do that in a way that men and black men too aren't able to do. Black men do it, but aren't able to express some of the pitfalls and some of the things that hold us back that happen to be white men and other things. They're able to express that and articulate that in a way that men don't do because we don't want to be vulnerable.
Interesting.
We don't want to be vulnerable. We they go straight to the jugular, which to me, that's more of a warrior. If you really want to win the war, that's a warrior, not that other stuff. But see, we think, being tough is a shit. That's until David slays that ass, like Goliath. We'd be like, it's the big. But David used that brain. David came in there and used that brain. Right. See, that's smart. That's where you're smarter.
Yeah.
You gotta. But see, most of us don't want to try that hard. So we do what do? We pump it up, right? Anyway. That's just what I got from. I looked at it, I was like, these sisters are powerful sitting here sharing these stories. They talked about natural hair, the perception, how people look at them. This one woman said, they hired me to I guess govern over this whole thing. She said, I get on these calls and there are 30 people in the room and they're all white men. And she says right from the top, the problem is you. The problem is you, that you don't want to get out of what you. How is it that there's all white? That's not accident. And I'm not saying it's always direct. I mean, premeditated. But it is on a level that it's in the consciousness. You keep hiring and working with people only that has something in common with you or look like you. You've got to be brave enough to go outside of yourself.
Yes, anyway. That is a conversation that could take us.
I know. We're talking about health, right? But to me, that's part of health. It's part of good relations. All that plays in. You mentioned. Hey, did you get some new glasses?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I did, but about 6 months ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, all to me that plays. You talk about having relations. The reason why. I've been, having the success I've had, the little success I have in my little business, production business, is because I try to keep relationships good. I try to satisfy the client. Even when I'm not, on point or wrong, I try to come back. I don't want to shy away from it. If something was, let's talk about how can I get it better? Because it's a relation. That's what sometimes that vulnerability is the very thing that gains your client's trust. They're like, wow, this cat didn't have to do that. He could have bullshit me, circled back around and asked me what I thought about him fucking up. Right. It matters to me.
Right.
It's the same thing in relationships with your children or your spouse. Like you should, everything they're on, you should care about what's happening in their world. If you see somebody in a relationship and they having a bad relationship with their siblings or their mother, that's a flag. You need to understand what's going on there and not just get it from their mouths. You need to hear all part because at some point that's going to enter into, if you're in that relationship long enough, you're going to see it because they could have been simply lying and that's a trait they have. And in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they got you fooled until at some point that they let their guards down, that lie keeps coming up, and you're like, wait a minute, am I? Yeah, that's the same shit that their sibling or their other people in their family has been dealing with, who's known them a lot longer. But unless you got an ulterior motive, I may be sorry. I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, we just have to, I think it's important to maintain a healthy relationship.
So this conversation has been about maintaining good health.
Yes.
All right, and keeping health.
Sorry, I go off into my tangents because
you kind of connect it all together.
Yeah,
I
mean, it's all part of the same thing.
It's all
to me.
part of the same thing. Well, a thought that I had this week, and this is indirectly health related, especially when we think about it in terms of, well, good health starts with a healthy sense of self and healthy relationships. So it all starts with a way of being about oneself.
Sure.
And if you're going to allow yourself to be contributed to. But, I think about so right now, there's a large contingent of Americans who want to deny the whole existence of slavery, or, just kind of want to wipe it out, or don't want to talk about it, don't want to have a conversation. And this will tie in eventually. And then there's a section of American citizens who want to bring it up a lot, and in doing so, they end up complaining a lot, or saying this is racist, or this, that, and the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of came to the conclusion that, well, if we really wanted to do away with racism, then ignoring it and complaining about it, ignoring it on one side and complaining about it on the other side, are not going to get rid of the conversation.
Not at all.
It's just going to sit there like a smoldering coal underneath a fire, in a fire
on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And that, in order to really put that behind us, there has to be some level of accepting responsibility and or acknowledgement.
Yeah.
But then there's this thought that came to mind about the fact that I think heaped on top of, especially from the African American's perspective, I think heaped on top of all that has been a sense of shame.
Heaped
on top of the fact that we come from people who were enslaved,
right?
And then constantly, whenever there was some progress made, got kicked back, or people were lynched or whatever. There's some success stories there, but a lot of things got wiped out or whatever. But I think just the fact alone of, number one, having been enslaved, and then number two, having to have certain special considerations to be brought up to the government to be treated equally, there's an element, be it so faint, of a shame. As opposed to...
What do you mean shame from where? What side?
Not shame like, oh, I did a bad thing. But shame like, oh, I've been considered a second-class citizen.
You mean on black folks' part?
Yeah, black people feeling that shame.
Sure, you feel ashamed.
Yeah, there's that shame. But it doesn't get addressed. It doesn't get spoken about. It doesn't get spoken to. It's just there.
Huh.
And that adds to the stress of being black in America.
Wow, that's a good point.
Yeah, there's
having to feel ashamed.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of that, yeah.
Exactly. And then,
but not articulated. It's just in the background.
It's in the background.
Yeah.
You
know you're being scrutinized. You know people. But that's what the sisters were talking about. It's like as soon as I walk in the room, I know, especially having natural hair, I know what they're saying. I'm not what you expected, huh?
Yeah.
So now I gotta. That's
do a
the
song
place.
And dance and
right. I'm already working from a deficit.
Yeah. Right.
Because all you guys,
right.
and that's what people do. They and same thing on. We got to be conscious that on the other side as black people, like be diverse. Like period. I'm just don't be afraid of diversity.
It's so interesting you say that, because as I'm building my band, I think about that. And one of the things that I read recently was what made Sly and the Family Stone so popular is that they were diverse.
Absolutely.
It was a mixture of people. And so I've been thinking about that, and with the group that I have, and honestly,
You're
yeah,
creating a healthy band.
yeah, well, most of the musicians are black, and I'd like to have it be a little more diverse.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, and so
You're conscious about it.
yeah, and I'm not trying to do an affirmative action kind of thing.
Right. But
you know, I want to be
getting
open.
some flavor. You want
Yeah,
a little bit of chocolate and a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of strawberry and a little bit of butter pecan and a little bit of Rocky Road
Yeah,
and a little
right.
sorbet.
Let me try a little bit of all of it.
Yes. I mean, so you know what works and what doesn't work. And I mean, to me, that's how food is too.
Well, yeah, and that's more of a reflection of how I think too, and how I feel. You know, how I want to see the world be. You know,
You hear that? You hear that, folks? The people out there, your lucky listeners.
Your lucky listeners, yeah, exactly. You know, Chris and I had a conversation before we began this particular podcast,
Yep.
and we want to invite all of you to suggest to us what it is you'd like to talk about. You know, we call this Not Your Common Conversation, and there are conversations that are probably swimming in your head that you are in some way or shape or form not having out in the world for some reason. You know, either you're intimidated or you're afraid of intimidating others. Either you feel like it's pointless or people don't care about it. Yet, this is a space where those conversations can begin to be planted and grow. So if you have something on your mind that you want to hear about, or you want to have a conversation about, or start a conversation about, please go to our Instagram, which is NYCC Pod, or YouTube, NYCC Pod, and comment on what it is that you think is an uncommon conversation
to talk
that
about.
we can have.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the world.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we want to hear from you, lucky listeners.
All right, Chris, I think that's another wrap for
another wrap.
Not Your Common Conversation. Y'all have a great day.
Peace.
Peace.